Lena, a trucker with 10 years hauling freight across the U.S., from the humid South to the icy Midwest. The road's my escape, open highways, starlit nights, and the hum of my rig drowning out the world. I've heard the stories at truck stops, ghostly hitchhikers, voices on the CB, killers hiding behind a friendly wave. I always scoffed, kept my focus on the job, secure the load, make the drop, get paid. But last summer, on a lonely stretch of I-95 in the Carolinas, I lived a nightmare that echoed a story I'd read, one that still chills me. Vanessa Veselka's near miss with Robert Ben Rhodes, the truck stop killer. And now something's following me, and it's not letting go. It was just past 3 a.m., and I was hauling a load of textiles from Richmond to Savannah on I-95. The night was muggy, the air thick with the smell of pine and asphalt, the road empty except for the occasional deer flashing in my headlights. My CB was off, the radio playing low jazz, when I saw it. A rig parked on the shoulder, hazard lights pulsing, no logo, just a plain white cab, like something from another time. My gut twisted. I'd read Vanessa Veselka's story in GQ about her encounter in 1985, hitching on I-95 as a 15-year-old runaway. A trucker picked her up, seemed fine, then turned, pulled a knife, talked about a dead girl in a dumpster and a laughing death society, told her to get in the sleeper. She escaped, ran into the woods, never reported it until years later, when she realized it might have been Rhodes, the truck stop killer, convicted for murders across states, suspected of dozens more. Why was that rig parked, and why did it feel so familiar? I slowed, debating whether to stop. Company rules. No passengers, no unnecessary pulls. But the rig looked abandoned, its hazards flickering like a warning. I kept driving, my eyes flicking to the mirrors. The air in the cab grew heavy, smelling of sweat and something sharp, like rusted metal. My CB crackled, though I hadn't touched it. A man's voice, low, calm, too calm, whispered, "Lena, pull over." My name, my heart pounding. I yanked the plug, but the voice kept going, circling the cab. "Pull over." I checked the passenger seat. Empty, just my coffee mug and logbook. But in the sleeper, a shadow moved, tall and lean, gone when I turned. The smell grew stronger, and the cab turned cold, like a meat locker. How did it know my name, and what was in my sleeper? I floored it, the rig roaring past the parked truck, its hazards fading in the dark. My cab camera's red light blinked, recording the empty road. The voice came again, sharper now. "Lena, you can't run." I glanced at the side mirror, and my blood froze. Scratch marks, jagged, desperate, like fingernails clawing for freedom, etched the frosted glass, fresh and deep, glinting in the moonlight. I hadn't stopped, hadn't touched the mirror, but there they were, like the ones Rhodes's victims left, clawing at his sleeper's chains. I knew his story too well. Rhodes, arrested in 1990 after a trooper found a woman, handcuffed and screaming, in his cab on I-10. They searched his truck, found a torture chamber, handcuffs, whips, photos of girls, some never identified. He confessed to killing newlyweds Patricia Walsh and Douglas Ziskowski in 1990, and 14-year-old Regina Walters, held for weeks, tortured, photographed before he killed her. Investigators suspect he killed up to 50 women, maybe more, picking up runaways and hitchhikers, using the highways to vanish. Vanessa Veselka's escape in '85 matched his pattern. Clean cab, button-down shirt, a knife, and that eerie shift in demeanor. Was this his shadow, or something worse? I didn't stop until I hit a truck stop near Florence, South Carolina. Its lot packed with rigs. The diner's neon sign buzzing like a lifeline. I stumbled inside, the smell of coffee and fried eggs cutting through the metallic stench clinging to me. The waitress, a woman with a name tag reading Marge, poured me a cup and eyed my face. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, her voice low. "You ever hear about anything weird on I-95? I asked, my voice barely steady. "A trucker, a voice, scratches on a rig." Her hand froze on the coffee pot. "The killer's echo," she whispered. "You heard him, didn't you?" She slid a napkin across the counter, a single word scrawled in pen. "Don't." She walked away, her eyes avoiding mine, like she was afraid to stay near me. What was the killer's echo? And why was Marge scared? I checked my cab camera footage the next day, needing proof I wasn't losing it. The video showed the road, the parked rig with its hazards, but no shadow in the sleeper. Just static then, at 3:07 a.m., a flicker. Faces blurred, eyes wide and desperate, in the passenger seat for a split second, then gone. The audio caught it. "Lena, don't run." My hands shook as I rewound, watched again. The scratch marks on the mirror were there, caught in the side camera's glare, deeper now, like hands clawing to escape. I sent the footage to my boss, expecting a laugh or a warning about fatigue. He didn't reply, just called and told me to take a week off, no questions asked. That wasn't normal. Bosses demand logs, explanations. A week later, I was at a bar in Fayetteville, swapping stories with other drivers. I mentioned the voice, the scratches, the rig. Most laughed, called it a ghost story. But an old-timer, his face like worn leather, didn't. "You felt Rhodes' echo," he said. "Or his girl's." "What do you know about it?" I asked, my throat tight. He leaned in, eyes dark. "Robert Ben Rhodes, the truck stop killer, hunted these roads in the 80s and 90s. Picked up girls, runaways, hitchhikers, tortured them in his cab, dumped them like trash. They caught him in 90, but his shadow's still here, on I-95, I-10, wherever he roamed. Drivers hear him, see his rig, find scratches. Some say it's his victims, trapped, begging for help. Others say it's him, still hunting." "What do they want?" I said, my voice shaking. He didn't answer, just pointed to a photo on the wall. A faded news clipping from 1985, showing a truck stop off I-95, police tape around a dumpster. In the corner, barely visible, were figures, blurred, their eyes glowing white, standing in the rain. On the ground beside them, a black leather glove, crusted with frost. Though it was summer. Were those his victims, or was Rhodes still out there? I don't drive I-95 anymore, not through the Carolinas. I stick to busier routes, lit-up highways where the shadows can't hide. But it follows me. At night when I'm parked, I smell it, sweat and rust, sharp and sickening, seeping into the cab. I hear the CB crackle, though it's unplugged, a voice whispering, "Lena, come back." Last week I found something under my bunk, a black leather glove, stiff with frost, though it was 80 degrees outside. I burned it in a fire pit, watched it curl and blacken, but the smell didn't go away. Last night I was parked in Virginia, miles from the Carolinas. The CB crackled, and the voice came through, colder, closer. "Lena, you can't run." I checked the camera feed, my heart pounding, and there it was, the sleeper, empty. But a shadow flickered, tall and lean, holding something glinting like a knife. In the mirror I saw them, scratch marks, deeper now, etched into the glass like a scream. Outside, in the dark, I heard it, a soft tap like a blade on metal circling the rig. I don't know what this is, a ghost, Rhodes' echo, or something the highways won't let go. I don't know why it chose me, or what it wants me to come back for. But I know it's out there, on I-95, parked on the shoulder, waiting. And I know if I ever stop there again, it'll climb in, and this time I might not escape. Will I ever escape the near miss with the truck stop killer? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next. I'm Jack, a long-haul trucker with over a decade navigating the back roads of America. From the dusty plains of Kansas to the humid heart of the South. I've always loved the solitude of the drive, the way the world narrows to just you, your rig, and the ribbon of asphalt unrolling ahead. But nothing prepared me for that night in the Louisiana Bayou, a stretch of swampy hell where the air hangs heavy, and the shadows hide things that don't belong in the light. It started as a routine run from Kansas City to New Orleans, but it ended with me vowing never to take that route after dark again. What I encountered wasn't just locals or a prank. It was the night folk, and they almost made me one of them. The sun was dipping low as I crossed into Louisiana, the sky bleeding orange over the bayou. I'd been on the road since dawn, my rig loaded with machine parts for a factory in New Orleans. The GPS had routed me through the old highways to avoid traffic, but as the light faded, the path narrowed, the pavement giving way to cracked asphalt, flanked by murky water and twisted cypress trees draped in Spanish moss. The air was thick, humid, carrying the scent of decay and stagnant water. I cracked the window, letting in the chorus of frogs and cicadas. But something felt off. The sounds were too loud, too insistent, like they were covering for something quieter, something watching. I shook it off, chugging another energy drink, my eyes on the mile markers. The bayou had a reputation, stories of voodoo, lost souls, and folks who lived off the grid, wild as the gators. But I'd driven worse. The radio crackled with static, the signal fading as the trees closed in. I switched it off, the silence broken only by the rumble of my engine. Why did the bayou feel like it was breathing? As full dark settled, my headlights pierced the gloom, illuminating the road ahead. That's when I saw it. A makeshift roadblock, branches, old tires, and junk piled across the lane. It looked like debris from a storm, or maybe kids messing around. I slowed the rig, tires crunching on the shoulder, and peered out. The bayou was silent now, the frogs and insects gone, like they'd been scared off. I grabbed my flashlight, stepped out with my tire iron in hand, the cold metal comforting against my palm. The air was heavier here, the decay smelled stronger, mingled with something metallic, like blood. I approached the block, shining the light, branches twisted into shapes that looked almost deliberate, like a barrier meant to stop you. My beam caught movement in the shadows beyond, figures emerging from the trees, ragged clothes hanging off thin frames, faces obscured by dirt and grime. Locals, I thought, maybe swamp folk needing help. But their eyes, gleaming in the light, were wrong, too hungry, too fixed on me. Who were they and why weren't they speaking? One of them stepped forward, a tall, gaunt man with a beard matted in mud, his shirt torn, revealing skin marked with scars. In his hand he held a rusty machete, the blade chipped but sharp enough to gleam. My blood ran cold. "Hey, you folks okay?" I called, my voice echoing oddly in the stillness. No answer. They just stared, more figures slinking out from the cypress, encircling the roadblock. 5, 6, maybe 8 of them, all silent, all watching. The machete man raised his blade slightly, not a threat yet, but a promise. Panic surged. I backed toward my rig, tire iron raised, my flashlight beam shaking. "Stay back," I shouted, but my voice sounded small, swallowed by the bayou. They didn't move, just watched, their dirt-caked faces expressionless, eyes reflecting like animals. I turned, bolting for the cab, but my boot sank into the soft shoulder, mud sucking at my leg. The rig was mired, the tires spinning uselessly as I gunned the engine. How had the mud appeared so fast, and why were they closing in? The machete man advanced, his blade catching the headlights, the others following, slow but relentless. I grabbed my CB radio, fumbling for the mic. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Rig 5150 on the Bayou Road. Need assistance." Static. No signal, just white noise crackling like laughter. The figures were closer now, their ragged breaths audible over the idling engine. One reached for the door handle, fingers black with grime, nails long and broken. I swung the tire iron through the open window, connecting with a crack, but the figure barely flinched, just kept coming. The machete man was at the front, blade raised, his eyes locked on mine, empty as the swamp. My mind raced to my past. A brother lost to the bottle, guilt from not being there when he needed me most. Was this karma, the bayou collecting its due? I revved the engine, the rig rocking but stuck fast. The door handle rattled, the cab shaking as they pounded on the metal. Would I end up like the stories? Another missing trucker swallowed by the bayou. Lights pierced the darkness behind me. Headlights, bright and high. Another rig approaching. The figures paused, turning toward the new beam. I honked my horn, long and desperate, the sound echoing through the trees. The oncoming truck slowed, its air brakes hissing, and the driver, a burly guy in a flannel shirt, leaned out his window. "What the hell's going on?" he shouted. The machete man lowered his blade, the others backing into the shadows, their eyes still fixed on me. The new driver jumped out, a shotgun in hand, and fired a shot into the air. The bang shattered the night, and the figures scattered, melting into the swamp like they were part of it. The machete man lingered longest, his gaze lingering, then vanished. The other trucker approached, face pale under his cap. "You okay?" "What were those things?" I gasped, leaning on my door. "I don't know. They came out of nowhere." Had they been real or something the bayou conjured? We worked together, him using his rig to pull mine free from the mud, the tires churning, until I was back on solid ground. He was a local, running the same route, and as we drove in tandem toward safer ground, he told me about the night folk, swamp dwellers, feral and forgotten, living off the land, preying on travelers who strayed too far. "They're real," he said, voice grim. "Stories say they're descendants of runaways, twisted by the bayou. You're lucky I came along." We reached a truck stop at dawn, the neon lights a welcome sight. I thanked him, bought him coffee, but the fear lingered, my hand still shaking. The machete man's eyes haunted me, empty yet knowing. I checked my rig, scratches on the door, deep and ragged, like from a blade. What if they weren't just people? What if the bayou had sent them? I finished the run to New Orleans, but the bayou stayed with me. Back home, I dreamed of the roadblock, the figures, their dirt faces peeling away to reveal something older, hungrier. A month later, on another run, I took a different route, but the smell of swamp water filled my cab, unexplainable. I pulled over, heart racing, and there, in my side mirror, a shadow, ragged, holding a blade. I blinked, and it was gone. At a diner, I confided in an old-timer. "Night folk," he muttered, sliding a napkin with a scrawled warning. "Don't go back." He spoke of legends, bayou spirits, voodoo curses, luring travelers to their doom. "They mark you," he said, pointing to my scratched door. I avoided the bayou after that, but the dreams persisted. Last week, parked in Kansas, the banging started, soft at first, then louder, like hands on the trailer. I stepped out, axe in hand, but nothing, just scratches, new ones, on the cab. The air smelled of mud and decay. Last night, the CB crackled. "Jack, come back." I smashed it, but the voice echoed. In the mirror, a figure, ragged, machete raised. I drove until dawn, but the bayou calls. I know they're waiting in the shadows for me to return after dark. Will I ever escape the night folk of the bayou? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next.